Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julia and this is a library card education. Today is the first installment of my Booklist series. We are going to be working our way through 5 in a row. I'm going to be doing volumes 1 through 8 eventually, and probably the more before and before 5 in a row. I'll sprinkle those in as necessary. I am not going in any particular order. This is based off of my children's interests as well as my interest. And we're gonna see where it takes us. All of my books that I'm using, I provide plenty of rabbit holes, plenty of inspiration for you to pull in other topics, other subjects, so that you can make this a very fruitful experience for you and your family. You can choose to buttress this with one of your other curriculum that you have at home, or you can go rogue and you can use this as a standalone book choice, book selection for you and your family from ages about 2 on up to teens, and possibly even get some high school credits depending on how many of these things you strew together, you sew together. And yeah, so I suggest you get something to write with, get some water, something to drink, and this is gonna be a long video. Hopefully I can get one of these posted approximately every 2 weeks for different themes. Now, forewarning you, this is going to be a very big theme. This is gonna be a very big book list. I could have taken this much further. I've only done about half of the topics that are in this particular unit. So I could have gone much further. I could have gone much deeper. This, I could have pulled even more books. I could have taken more books off my shelves. I could have gotten even more from the library, but I didn't want this to be so overwhelming that you're just kind of spinning your wheels and panicking. I have a large selection because my goal is for you to be able to go to your library and find these books. Some libraries will have some libraries will have very few, but this will give you a very good diving board for what you need to look for and where you need to look for it at. I also like to focus on some of the books that you don't really see often on other lists or other websites. And let's start doing this. So first and foremost, we are working with 5 in a row, volume 3, and we are doing Paul Revere's Ride. Let me put these over here where they're not gonna get bent. And I think I'm gonna make some notes here real quick for you to keep in mind. So the topics that we're gonna be discussing with Paul Revere's Ride, we're gonna have American Revolution. Our geography is gonna be Boston, Massachusetts. We are going to be doing for language arts, reading poetry aloud. You're gonna be working with the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I will link an article to him for my Catholic viewers that you can see on a Catholic website. And I will do my best to link some free poetry of his outside of this if you wish to dive further into the poetry. I'm going to be using, for our art, if you're looking at the manuals, that's what all of these subsections are. For art, we are gonna go with Colonial Architecture, and that could even springboard into engineering, which you will see coming through with the next unit that I'm doing. For math, we are working on math riddles, and for science, we have fog over rivers, and I will give you the sections of fog, rivers, and water cycle. So you have plenty that you can choose from. Again, a lot of resources for each of these, but you are covered with a magnitudinous, I can't say it today. You know how it goes. A lot of sources. And I'm also putting in some music studies. It is not in 5 in a row, but it's in the same time period. It's in Europe, not here, but something kind of fun to do. So let me put my sticky somewhere so I don't lose that. The next thing that you can do also with language arts, something that I thought of, which would be fun to do, is you can have your child at any age, if they are writing or even just if they need to doodle, they can be a town crier. They can write a newspaper article. They can write a whole newspaper. They can do research on the printing press in the United States and pamphlets and how those were disseminated throughout the colonies. There are so many different things that you can do with compare and contrast, with research papers, with making your own graphic novel for something like this. So there's a lot you can do with language arts that's not even listed in 5 in a row. And if you want to get really crafty, you can publish that on brown craft paper, or for art science combo, you can do an additional project of learning how to, antique paper. So you can get whatever paper you have, learn how to make it look antiqued, dry it, and then make black walnut ink. So we're talking about July, mid-July right now. So in a couple months, depending on when you want to do this, you can go and collect black walnuts. You can steep it, boil it, and boil it down to make your own ink to write your own newspaper. So these are just different things that I'm thinking about. You can also look on YouTube at Townsends and Son. Peg and Cat is a PBS show. They have a math episode that's dedicated to 1776 and George Washington. I will try to link both as well. Townsends and Son, it goes into all sorts of things that you would find from, let's say, the 1600s on up through the American colonial time period. So there's a good 100 to 150 years of history that he covers on his channel. And you can research pemmican, hardtack, and lobsters on his channel. That will go well with Massachusetts. And you will learn that, or your children will learn, that lobsters were what was fed to prisoners because it was cheap and abundant. So wouldn't that be nice to have that today? Not for prisoners, but for us. And there's a book, I was not able to get it in time to film this. My library couldn't get it to me, but it's a part of the Big Head series. And normally I'm very, very cautious and leery of that whole book series just because there's a lot of information in there that you do not need. But if you're someone you're not so concerned about your children finding agendas and left-leaning sort of information, you might be willing to risk it with something called Where is Massachusetts? It's been published sometime in spring of 2026, so it's relatively new. And then you can do mapping, notebooking. If you're going to do maps, you can map out the battles, you can map out rivers, the topography, you can map out major cities from now and then, locations of battles. You can do travel lines of where everybody traveled. You could do the travel line of Paul Revere and other patriots. So there's lots of choices with that. Let's see here. That's pretty much what I have on my sticky notes for you. Okay, so now are you ready for the books? Because you're going to be drinking through the fire hose. I'm going to leave the American Revolution history for last because it's so big. So we're going to start with probably geography. So let's do some geography. Let's get that out of here. This was at my library. So just assume that everything's from the library unless I say otherwise. And this goes into Paul Revere and what Boston, Massachusetts was like when he was a child. So I mean, it talks about everything from courts, schools, I think there's bakeries. So that's what life was like when he was a kid. Oh boy, I didn't plan this out very well. Okay. And geography. Oh, here's another geography one. I'm losing my mind already. Passports to America. So you could do fast forward. And even if you don't have this one, there's so many books at your library for the states. Try to find one on Massachusetts. So you'll go through things like this. You can make some clam chowder. We'll get into some cooking books. I have those as well for you too. This will be a geography and science hybrid, so you can get both credits on that. And I've seen people use this book up through high school. Your choice what you want to do, but it's elementary through potential high school. Men of the Mississippi. So you will be tracking, granted this is not Massachusetts, but because 5 in a row has you looking at rivers, here's your river book. And then you can go through and have your child chart and track the rivers, the landmarks, so many things you can do with this. Research the animals, the ecology, the biomes that you're gonna go through going down the Mississippi. That's gonna be a huge history or a huge science chunk that you can do with older children, your teenagers. Perfect. For math and math riddles, we have 2 options. You can do your bedtime math series, and this will be for your young little ones on up through teenagers because it's mostly mental math. So that's a good option. And then Greg Tang, his books, Grapes of Wrath or Grapes of Math for this particular one. Science, let's just get that going and out of the way. Water is water. If you want to do the water cycle is technically not in this one, but if you're going to be learning about fog and rivers, these are some of the options you can use, or we will talk about the water cycle and other units in the future. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to do everything now. We will come back to some of these things repeatedly throughout the series. Jim Arnowski. His books can be a little bit harder to find though, but my library still carries his. Not Massachusetts, this is Ohio. Trying to avoid the glare. And this goes into rivers all over the world. So you can see this is a lot of detailed information. This will be good for middle school. You could use this for high school. Again, so you can see it. Now these are ones that my littles like. She has beautiful books. This is April Pulley Sayer. Oh, I'm so sorry. I probably shouldn't have filmed this near my glass door. Let's try this. Because who doesn't love Paddington? And if your child's a little bit sensitive, the bats inside this book have some creepy faces. Let me see if I can find it for you real quick. Oh, see, like here's another one with eyes in the fog. Some of my children don't mind that, but some of my children do. My 4-year-old, she doesn't like it. So you be the judge with your children. So that discusses fog and it pulls in your tinies. Okay. Something else that I can share with you, if you're going to be doing history, geography, notebooking, all of that, be sure to pick up a history timeline. You will use it more times than I can count through all of these series videos that I'm going to be showing you. Entering the country, if you wish to have something dedicated for each of the states. This is Massachusetts. And it goes into science, history, geography, language arts, literature, all of that for each state. You can buy these copies used on eBay, or Rainbow Resources sells them brand new, as well as PDFs. I'm not sponsored by them, just giving you info. Be sure to notebook with your children. Spiral notebooks, or you can use something like this. I got these at Walmart. So your choice. Okay, let's get into, where are we gonna go with this? Let's start with the American Revolution with this next stack. To go with Paul Revere's Ride, so again, William Wadsworth Longfellow. Here is this book. And it talks about her ride, something similar to Paul Revere. Okay, we're gonna do the fun books. George Washington's Teeth, love this book. Even includes the history in the back somewhere. Oh my gosh. So you have timelines, you have pictures. Goes into his actual dentures. So don't discount this, but it's fun for all ages, but there is a lot of history in this. Another fun one, George Washington's Cows. Just so much fun. Not exactly the same time period, a little bit after, we're talking about 15, 20 years after the American Revolution, but it's just fun. A big cheese for the White House. And this goes into Thomas Jefferson's presidency. A lot of fun. An Early American Christmas, you can read it now. You can put it on your list for Christmas to read with your children and kind of do like a spiral if you wish. But unlike some of his religious books that are really long and difficult to get through, this one isn't. So it's a nice book. Thomas Jefferson Builds a Library. Some of you might like this, some of you might like, oh no, but it's fun. Again, this goes through American Revolution, but then into his presidency, Thomas Jefferson. You can have your older children research the history of duels, and they can write papers for that if they want. I am not going to get too much into Benjamin Franklin because there is another book that's in volume 4, I believe, that will get a lot into him, but you can cover him a little bit here. Again, it could be a spiral if you wish. All right, here's another fun series. It's a little bit gross, has some gross facts. My kids adore them. But this would be a great way for you to research colonial era medicine, dentistry, and hygiene. Oh, the things you could do, oh, the rabbit holes you could go on up through high school. This could be so much fun. So you wouldn't want to be an American colonist, and you wouldn't want to be, at the Boston Tea Party. So much fun. And this next book goes along that theme, but it stretches from Puritan time period on up to the American Revolution. So you'd be getting about 150 years. But when I mentioned earlier hardtack, this goes into some medical concerns that they were having with hardtack. Bad medicine. Like, for example, so if you want to research colonial era medicine with your children, uncommon cures. The women were pitiful and pitifully tooth-shaken, whether through the coldness of the climate or by the sweetmeats, which was sugar, I am not sure. For toothache, I have found the following medicine to be very available. Add butter to gunpowder and rub the jaw with it. For frozen limbs, make a lotion of soap, salt, and molasses, or use cow dung boiled in milk. That's from 1674. Tasty. So it's just kind of silly, oddball, quirky things, but it could be a lot of fun. Something you don't see in other places. This is a nice book. This would be a little bit like upper elementary into middle school easily. Same with this. I think this next book is this is a great one because it goes through how everybody in the town would have viewed what was going on. So you have the baker, the school, the shoemaker, the wig maker, how these events would have affected everybody in the town. Henry and the Canons. For my Catholic viewers, you will notice many of the dates and the timeline of this particular book and what they go through align with St. Patrick's feast day, which he is the patron saint of Massachusetts. So for you Catholics, add that study in. St. Patrick's for Massachusetts, Boston. For winter time, this is also a fun one. This will be a harder one to find, but I did get this from my library when they sold it, so maybe you can still find it too. This next author is David Adler. He has a huge plethora of books for historical figures throughout American history. And let's see. I'm not really a fan of the illustrations in this one, but it's a good read. Okay. Now that's it for the fun books. Let's get into, let's go with cooking. If you are interested in doing any colonial era cooking and having your children come along with you, this. You can use it as Christmas, you can use it now, you can do it both. And I love this book. It is drawn in the illustration of everything is gingerbread. So it's cute, it's fun. But in the back is a recipe for gingerbread. So you can make the gingerbread, you can bake it, you can decorate it, and that can be a huge project. Another way of making narration, baking for narration. This book is only related because of Paul Revere, but it is my favorite. I absolutely love this book. I look forward to it every time that I can find a reason to read it to my children. Oh, I so love this book. Absolutely love it. This is going to take you through 400 years of cooking and baking. So the colonial era is represented in here. Colonial era cooking. And this one has a section for colonial. I'll show you. So you can get George Washington's teeth, again, another tie-in to that other book. We have Paul Revere and food that he would have eaten. What do we have back here? And then you've got historical timelines and biography information. The colonial cook. Now again, your library might not have all of these cooking ones, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what to look for. This next one, I'm going to recommend it to you with reservation because I know a lot of my viewers are not into the rainbow agendas, as I am not. This author, let's just say if you watch his channel, he has a fun channel, but he has some episodes that he has his husband on with him and talking about preparing, him and his now husband preparing for their wedding. So just be mindful. You can make 2 of his recipes. Everlasting Syllabub. I watched that one a few years ago. And Parmesan cheese ice cream. Another favorite book. Ooh, I bought this on pre-order. I could not wait until it arrived. I knew from when my oldest was a lot younger that I was going to use this in our high school somehow. Didn't know how, didn't know when, but we were going to use it in high school. History and Science. American Cake. You can use this for homeschool. I recommend you buy it. If you can find it used, oh, it's amazing. So let's look in this real quick. It goes through the history of America's cakes. And then you'll get 1615 to 1799. And it gives you all the history of each time period. So for my Catholics, you have your king cake. And that's in the colonial era. You want a colonial era cake that's tasty, the pound cake. And again, it gives you all the information and all of the historical background. And then here is the Martha Washington election cake. So much fun. Okay, now if you want to include music studies, again, that's not in this 5 in a row unit, but I'm putting it in there because it's in the same time period. I pulled out some books. So we have Vivaldi. For my Catholics, if you didn't know, he was a Catholic priest. He could not offer mass publicly because it is believed that he had asthma, and being in Rome with all the heat and humidity, it flared his lungs and he couldn't breathe and could not get his voice up high enough, loud enough to say mass for people to hear. And so another Vivaldi book in case your library doesn't have that, but it's his 4 Seasons. And this one, the music, the story orchestra, Vivaldi's 4 Seasons. So that's what it does. Is each page, it gives you a little tiny snippet of in his 4-story orchestra along with the pictures. So that's how my children learned about Vivaldi when they were younger. And so when they listen to the music, even on the radio, they know what season each piece goes with. and it gives a short biography, and then they can play all of the music themselves. So fun, love these. And if you're not into Vivaldi or you want to do two people, you have Johann Sebastian Bach. And here's a picture book to go along with that. So that's some of the fun stuff that you can do. Let's get into some of our reference materials. These will still be picture book-esque. They will be geared for anywhere from young ages to high school, but this gives you more information type stuff. Star Spangled Banner from the Dolores. And you can check out a book about the Star Spangled Banner if you wish. I should have brought mine up, I did not. So here's the Constitution of the United States of America in picture form. And you decide if you want picture book for the Constitution or if you just want to get out the Constitution, and you can have your high schoolers read that while your littles are going through this. National Geographic. So you have a lot of reenactment pictures. DK Eyewitness American Revolution, so like a mini encyclopedia dedicated to that. You want something fun to do for narration, and you don't have a child that wants to bake or cook, but you have a child that likes to build. This is how you do narration with Legos, Lego history. So you can do all of these fun little builds. So you've got your colonial era Independence House, and then over here, American Revolution. And then you can have them build a whole city. You can have them do Lego engineering with actually doing the Lego movements, putting those things together if you have the electronics for that. That's a great way to do that. If you are interested in what crafts you can do with your children, this is one that I got in my personal collection, but you should be able to find several easily, different styles. This particular one goes through like flashcards, ancient or vintage flashcards for that time period, clothing, construction styles, education, all sorts of fun stuff. And then you can make certain things. So that's an idea. If your library has it, it's a hard one to find, but you're interested in learning about the education process of the colonial era. This one, just letting you know, if you wanted to buy this book, you're looking at $30+ for this book. It's expensive. Getting into what the homes look like in the colonial era. And what life was like. How can you go through the American Revolution and not talk about Williamsburg, Virginia? I wish I lived there. So pretty. And for your older children, middle school, you can read this. So this would be kind of like an introductory chapter book. There's a lot of information. And for research purposes, think about how we're going to be studying colonial architecture. In this book, it will have you go through Palladian windows and doors and all the very unique aspects of colonial construction. You will find a lot of pictures and references of that in this type of a book. This is a big old thick reference book. So just see what kind of colonial era architecture book that your library has. This is a fun one. You want your child to study history, but they're not really interested in just your typical history books. How about study history of fashion? So, oh, Smithsonian has this very massive book. Now, I will warn you, there are pictures in here, statues in here of bear busts. I found a picture from medieval times where they were showing you essentially pant butt flaps, and the flap was down and you could see a man's butty cheeks. So just be mindful of that. You can go into the history of macaroni and dandy. Macaroni is not what, you know, we think of today, macaroni and cheese. That was a derogatory term used for very effeminate and flamboyant sort of types, if you catch my drift. But you can go into the full history. And so when you hear the song Yankee Doodle Dandy, that is full of slurs. That's what a slur was back then. So it goes into all of that right there, on up to simpler dress. Yes, for all of us, this is what they dress like, to be simple. I dress in pajamas to be simple. That's just me. Let's see here. To sports dress. Let's see. So you can have your child do that. So every time that we go through American history, or any history really, because I think all history, I've seen history of fashion in many cultures throughout history in this one. So this could be a fun one to get your hands on. Oh, okay, 31 minutes and we're still going. Now we're going to get into our chapter books. Let's get into our beginner chapter books. We have more of the Dolores. Again, Benjamin Franklin, he's going to be discussed at another time period. This first edition was actually at my library and I wanted to get it just because it's fun and I can show you. But that's what a more modern print would look like. George Washington. I Survived is a fun series. Now these ones, oh, there's so many different people that you could look at. So, Childhood of Famous Americans. This is Paul Revere, but you can do George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Molly Pitcher. They've got one for Benjamin Franklin, I think John Adams. There's a whole bunch. So see what your library has. I would recommend getting these or the original hardcovers. I do not recommend the newer prints. They are still dark blue, but they don't have any of this imagery on it. It is a solid dark blue with a large silver star on it. Stay away from that edition. Those editions are removing information and they're making them more politically correct. I mean, these ones really aren't politically incorrect. They're just, like so many books today, they're taking out information. So stick with these or the old hardcovers if you can find them. My library still has some of them, but they have a lot of that edition. If you have a girl that loves reading about colonial era or just loves like dolls or whatever, you have your American Girl. Felicity will be your time period, and then this is a go along called Elizabeth. We don't have the full Felicity collection, but I do know that our library carries it. So that might be fun for your daughter. If you want some graphic novels, this is a fun one. This is a fun series in general. This next one, I will warn you, it is based off of conservative politics. 20 years ago, I was a fan of it. Now I am politically marooned, so I don't have a dog in that fight. I think they all suck. But some people really like it, and my kids actually enjoyed reading them. So we'll see how that flies with you guys. Rush Revere, Rush Limbaugh. I had somebody at church give them to me because they knew I was a homeschooler. So, and then you can get the audio CDs to go with them. if you want. If not, I'm not offended, so don't worry. You can lambaste me in the comments, that's okay. I'd probably agree with you. Justin Morgan Had a Horse. My daughter says this one's kind of sad, or is it this one? No, it's this one. My Brother Sam Is Dead. She said this one was sad, but she loved the book. My almost 12-year-old just finished this. She loves this book. She thought it was great. This is an amazing author. I don't know if it's Avi. I don't know how he pronounces it. If you are someone that really likes vintage, you have the budget for it, you like the thrill of the hunt and the chase of seeing what you can find, let's go with Landmark Books. Landmark has republished some of them that your library should have, like Landmark's George Washington. They should have that one. They should have Thomas Jefferson, and they'll have some of the other colonial 13 colonies type ones. They should. So you can look for the new George Washington Landmark, or you can look for the vintage. I will tell you that the new George Washington Landmark, though, is half the size. I mean, it's shorter, and half the information is in. I don't know what they did. I don't know how much they took out, but that's up to you. If you don't want to spend this money or look for this, you can still find Landmark at your library, usually. Here's the Thomas Jefferson one. So just see what your library has. But if you want the thrill of the chase and you don't mind spending a little bit of money, you can get Paul Revere and the Minutemen, the American Revolution, and Our Independence in the Constitution. One of the benefits with these is, I'm going to badly botch the quote, but C.S. Lewis said that there is no book worth reading at age 10 that isn't worth reading as an adult. Or is it worth reading as an adult that isn't worth reading at age 10? It's one of those two. When you look at reviews of these books online, you will see a lot of people that are age 65 and older that absolutely adore their memories of this. So much so that they've either repurchased or they kept these books for all these years and they still reread them today because they enjoy them that much. They made a very profound impact on them. And there's a couple hundred maybe in the whole series. It's a big series. So these are great to use with elementary kids that want a challenge. You can use them with your middle schoolers. You can use them with your high schoolers. It is a book series that a lot of people really enjoy. And I know that my daughter is really enjoying going through ours right now currently. So if your budget allows for that, but don't feel pressured to do it. Now this is not at my local library, but I wanted to put an option in here for Bethlehem Books for Catholics. And you can go into the history of Benjamin Franklin with the carols and how he lobbied to get his cousin elected as, or not elected, but as installed as the first bishop of the United States. I think that's kind of sus, especially considering Franklin was a Freemason, but that's just me. Sorry guys. This is a fun book. My library has it. So it's a chapter book, but it still has colors, pictures, and of course I'm not landing on any of the pictures. Oh my gosh. Your timelines. But see what I mean? How a timeline book would come in really handy. So it's not super dense print. Middle school, high school, easily. If you have a precocious reader or a child in the upper grades, 10th through 12th grade, and you want to add something, one of the picture books that I showed you was the feud between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. You can read the actual nonfiction of that. And for my Catholic viewers, Puritan's Progress, this is volume 2. So it's going to cover 1771 through 1848. American Revolutionaries. I don't know if this is a Catholic book, to be quite honest. I don't think this is a Catholic book, so I think this is for anybody. But then this is a Catholic author. So since Freemasonry was big in the American Revolution, if that's what you want to study, you have that. Okay, we are almost done here at 40 minutes, almost done. I'm gonna go through some more picture books that I don't find personally interesting and inspiring, but I do know that there are some families that really enjoy them. Just to give you as many options as possible. The 4th of July story. Ben and the Emancipation Proclamation. This author has a ton of them. You can find this author, Jean Fritz. You can find this, I think it's a man, but I could be wrong, could be a woman. Maybe it is a woman because it's J for Jean. See, Paul Revere. So many books that this author has. And they would be kind of like a chapter book-ish. Definitely need to have some attention span for this or break it up over the course of a week. Let's see, what did I just do with all those? I put them over here. Again, another chapter book-ish meets picture book. This is about John Quincy Adams, kind of in that same time period, but it has a huge swath of time that it discusses. Demi, George Washington. If you're Catholic, you can get into the Catholic prophecies of him seeing Our Lady and discussing a war against China. That's, if you want to get into it, that's something you can deep dive into. Boston Tea Party. There's another one that goes along with this, and I can't remember the title. And then fun. Ouch, just smashed my finger. For your kids, how cool is that? America's 250th anniversary, and all of the crayons are named after something in the United States or some event, so it's just fun. Let them notebook with their fun little America crayons. Liberty's Kids. This dates to around Carmen Sandiego and Magic School Bus, the original one, that time period. And it's all famous individuals that voice the characters. Paul Revere happens to be voiced by my favorite actor, Sylvester Stallone. We'll just leave it at that. And there's Sylvester Stallone, obviously. There's Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's Whoopi Goldberg. There is Walter Cronkite. There's a whole bunch of people that are featured in this. Michael Douglas, he's another one. For your high school students, The Patriot, awesome movie. Fits perfectly with this time period. If you're looking for something a little more studious, History Channel. There is stuff on YouTube where you can, like I said with Townsends, you can cook your way through history. You can do science experiments through history. You can find all sorts of crazy stuff on YouTube, and that's up to you and how you want to do it and how you're feeling called. But at 43 minutes, I think we need to be done here. Hopefully this wasn't drinking through the fire hose too badly and you got some really good ideas. Come back, watch it often, refer to this often, and remember the next installment should be up in about 2 weeks when we go through the next unit, and the next unit will piggyback off this slightly. So I will catch you later. Like, subscribe, please share. Get the word out for this. Comment down below, and I will catch you in the next video.